There we go. We're on.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody. It's Dan and Caleb. Oh, Dan, I said your name. It's Dan and Caleb.
Yes, now I don't have to say anything this entire podcast. All right.
There we go.
So this is the Caleb show. I'm going to take a nap now. If you hear any snoring, it's just me.
Yep, just taking a nap. Good time for a nap. All right, well, this is a part two, Dan. This is the part two.
This is a part two. So we talked a lot because we both love hearing the sound of our own voice and each other's voice. So we've got part two of, Sir, how much time is left? To which the answer is 78 minutes. Get in shape, you fat prop.
As he runs away with play, basically, right? That's how that works. So we cut it off at a good point, and I think we're gonna start up. We just finished talking about lineouts and scrums. I got my wine and my burps, so it's a classic, as things always are here. Anyways, let's talk about the prop shuffle. Well, we talk about a ref running away from us. Let's do that, Dan. Now, I had never heard the term prop shuffle until you coined it on one of the games, and it's very apt.
It is. So I in the previous podcast, I mentioned the point of running, and that's the point with which the prop shuffle becomes mandatory. And for those of you who are backs and don't understand what I mean when I mean the point of running, there's a point during a rugby game that where if you're forward, you're like, oh, I want to go over there and run, and you go to run, and then your body just doesn't really respond, and you're like, oh. My legs aren't moving.
The mind is willing, but the body is weak.
And that's when you do the prop shuffle. The prop shuffle is just a very iconic sort of movement. And once you know what it is, you can watch props, even like professional props, and they're like, yep, he's shuffling.
Actually, funny thing you should say that. So when I was first starting out, I used to watch games, and I used to, because it all looked like a Star Trek bar fight to me, right? But I would watch these games, and I would look for the one or the three, and sort of focus on them. And now it's just a point where I can just glance at the screen, and by the way they're moving, I can be like, oh, there he is. Immediately catch him and be like, there's my man Mahler or whatever. Kyle Sinclair's faster. He doesn't quite have that shuffle. But or Sinclair, I always say that wrong. But he also has a prop shuffle. So yeah. So what are the components of a prop shuffle, Dan?
I mean, I think the key component is that is a shuffle. Your legs no longer really have the energy to sort of like push up. Like if you run, you're sort of like you have these long strides where your feet are like both off the ground for a while, and the prop shuffle doesn't have that. And it's not like a speed walk where you have to have like one foot on the ground at the same time, because that's like a very precise movement. This is more of a sort of like ramshot, like you sort of like, you sort of like lean forward until you're about to fall over, and then your foot goes in front of you just to save yourself. And then you do the same thing with the other foot.
It's as if you were going down a somewhat steep hill, and instead of leaning back like you would normally do, you just stayed like perpendicular to it, and you're kind of falling forward. Right? Falling towards victory.
Yeah. So there's that. I would say those are the two most characteristic parts. Like you really like just like have your body weight forward in order to actually get some forward momentum, because your legs don't actually have the power to push you forward anymore. So you're just sort of falling forward and then catching yourself repeatedly for like 70 minutes.
It is versatile, though. It's a fantastic technique. But yeah,
it's a fantastic technique, and like really, sometimes in a game you can prop shuffle for a long time, and then suddenly you find yourself like at an important point having the energy to run. You're like, oh, I can run again, and then you try to run after the play is over, and you're like, no, I can't.
Yeah, you got a good 3 to 4 big strides, and then you're like, okay, I'm toast again, boys. Give me a minute, and you shuffle over.
I mean, that was one thing I think actually that when I played with the Seattle Quake, they did really well, was that idea of like, you do like 2 or 3 hard steps every time the ball goes up. Just do 2 or 3 hard steps, and then either you put pressure on and then you can like slow down because you realize, oh well, I don't need to keep doing it, or at that point you see, oh actually I need to keep running up. And I've kept that in my mind, and I find it's really helpful to keep motivating yourself at those lines, because or not lines, at those rucks, because as the game goes on, you're like, oh well, do I want to put my effort into this? How much effort do I want to put in? Because this is one of the big things about pacing yourself. You have to know when you want to put pressure on and when you need to use that energy and when you don't. And like telling yourself, 2 or 3 steps or 3 or 4 steps, like you can psych yourself up to do that. I'm going to do those 2 steps really quick. And then suddenly you find out like, oh well, I need to actually do something now, and then you have the energy to do it because you're something like, yes, this is important. And I think that's a really important part. Pace yourself. You need to make sure you don't try to do everything and then just tire yourself out and end up doing nothing, because you're just like following around the ball, trying to be useful all the time, and end up just
being useful
there in time. You're like, okay, well I got to where the ball was, and now it's way down the other side of the field. You also can't just wait for the ball to come to you, because sometimes it just won't. And you're just going to end up saving all this energy that you're never going to actually use.
That is, you know what? That is one of the worst feelings, I gotta say. Like sometimes, I'll skip phases to position myself well. Again, just trying to keep up some energy. But if the game ends, and this has actually weirdly happened, I think twice, maybe, in all of the games I've played, and I actually had energy left, and I felt so bad. I was like, oh my god, I did not put it all out there. I feel terrible,
I mean, if it weren't for the fact we were recording, I would leave this podcast right now.
I know. Fucking game over. He is fuming, guys. Dan is just furious. As I grab some wine.
And so you want to be like, use all your energy in it. Actually, there was one game where I was just like, oh, I did not really do a good job. We won it was actually like we were winning it by rather a blowout. The ref was taking pity on the other team and like just never letting us play advantage, because she knew if we were playing advantage, we would just score another try. She's like, nope, that's a penalty, and so you're going to have to give the team time to line up. So she never let us play advantage. And I told her that after the match, like, I think you were like really attentive to everything that's going on, but like, rugby is a game of advantage, and like I don't feel like you really like understood that. She's like, yeah, that was a conscious choice because you would have scored a lot more tries if I'd done that. But, good point. But anyways, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is I was like always on one side of the pitch waiting for the ball to come to that side of the pitch, and it never did, because we would just go to a side and break through and score. And so I left the game like, I am feeling very energized, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
Just because I was all prepped to play rugby and mostly stood around. And so, well, yeah, obviously, that's I did not play that well, but that was not to the team's detriment, really, because
right.
We won by so much. But yeah, it's not a fun feeling. You go to rugby, you're going to play an aggressive all-out sport, and if you don't do that, like, why are you even playing it? Like, there's like, go do Tai Chi.
Yeah, and I think it's but there's there is the other end of that spectrum, though, is when the guy who's like always getting hurt. There's always like 1 or 2 guys on the team who are like that. They always go like 190%.
Shout out to Jackson.
Yeah, shout out to Jackson, who shouts out while he got hurt in practice, in games, in friendly, whatever. You were always like, oh, there's Jackson's. Yeah.
And then, he's trying to play when he has such a bad concussion that he like can't even stand up. He's like, no, I'm fine. Falls over. Like, Jackson, you are falling over from your concussion. Like, you cannot play. I'm fine.
Yeah, there's a photo of that moment where he was like fighting the EMT who was playing on the other team. He's the EMT, and great guy. And anyways, he was like, no, Jackson, man, you gotta like just hold on a sec. And all you hear is like, fuck you. Like, oh, bless that crazy dude. But yeah, so going 190 all the time, though, is just a great way to get hurt.
Well, I mean, like, I don't think it's really the intensity like that gets you hurt. It's really that you need to make sure that you're going into everything safely and have that sort of sense of self-preservation. And I don't want to call out Jackson on a podcast. I like that was just friendly teasing. I don't want to actually be like, but he perhaps does not have the greatest sense of like I should take care of myself during a rugby game.
No, and it's true, which is usually very helpful to an extent.
It's very helpful for about 5 minutes, and then you get injured.
And then suddenly you're down a guy. We all suffer from that. There's a couple other guys I know who do the same thing.
I mean, yes, this is not a one person has a problem. This is a very consistent problem. You need to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You're committing to safe tackles, safe rucks, safe mauls. You're really going in. Yes, you want to go in a way that's going to be effective, but also that leaves you playing for the full 80 minutes. Because if you get injured, then you're off the game, and you're not helping your team. You're going to be out for the next couple of games, quite possibly.
That sucks when it happens too. Like you feel so bad. I felt so bad. Like I've torn muscles because I cramped up, and then I was like, no, I'll play through it, and then fucking tear a muscle, and not only that, I'm driving home, 400 or 500 kilometers, the fucking torn hamstring and a manual car. Not that this is a specific instance, guys. Not that I'm giving you very specific details. But no, it sucks. It feels super shitty when you do that, though. But yeah, I digress.
So always protect your head. Never charge into anything head first. I say this because I've seen a lot of people who don't have the best sense of preservation try to use their head as a weapon, and it's a horrible idea in American football where you wear giant helmets that you can use as a weapon, and it's an even worse idea in rugby because as much as using a giant helmet as a weapon is an awful idea, it's even worse idea to try to use your head as one without a helmet.
Because odds are there's a guy like me who's way too tired and is standing more upright than down, and you're just going to run into my knee. It's happened numerous times. It doesn't hurt my knee because I'm still pseudo-crouched, about to get too high into a run. And this guy comes up I've had people run their heads into my knee, and I'm like, what are you doing? They were just in it all, full tilt, and it's they're always carried away. Literally carried away. But yeah. So okay. So but let's say you've given it your perfect amount of energy and you're exhausted and the 80 minutes isn't up, Dan. What do we have then? We have subs.
Wait, you have subs on your team? I'm jealous.
We don't have that. Props don't have fucking subs. You will always play if you are a prop. You 100%. You will always play. That's just it's one of those constants in the universe.
But yeah, subs. I actually, when I started playing, we never had subs, and so I got very much into the mindset that if I was taken off for a sub, that was bad. Right. And so I was always trying to pace myself for the full 80 minutes, and never try to go off, and never and it really was not a good headspace to be in.
No,
not for myself, but for my team. If you've got the subs, use them, and it means you can go more all out during the game and wipe yourself out, and then you go off, someone else goes on, they get to play the last 40 minutes at full tilt. Yeah. Because really, if you're going full tilt, you can tire yourself out in 7 minutes.
Easy, man. Yeah.
If you're a prop too.
yeah. We're talking non-prop people. If you're a prop, yeah, absolutely. But no, it's true. It's just the nature of it.
And so yeah, I think that really paying attention to how many subs you have and make sure you're orienting your effort level to the amount of time you're going to play to let everyone get play. Yes. Depends on your league. Thankfully, in my league, we have rolling subs, which means you can go off and then go back on. So, which is really nice for a prop because you're 20 minutes of just full on, then you're whew, I'm going off now. Then you go back on for 20 minutes later, and you're yeah, hitting everything. Okay, I'm done now.
You do run the danger though if they're not check-in time, or if you've got more than one sub for your position, that you just start to cramp up. Like you just start to seize up a little bit if it's any more than 20 minutes. You gotta actually keep limber. And as a prop, we just watch the game and we're like, fuck yeah. But we're not doing like the little warm-up jogs and shit like that. I mean, sometimes you do, but you forget because you get caught up in watching the game. And then all of a sudden you're like you're ice cold basically. You're like, okay, I'm gonna go in. Yeah. And then of course inevitably you have like 6 scrum resets. And you're like, I just got on. but yeah, like it's it is crucial to get that timing right when you got people to come back. And yeah, I also definitely felt the whole like, what did I do wrong, coach, when they're calling me off? But really, like I've played well and I'm just like exhausted and they see that and they're like, okay, let's just keep this game rolling. And rolling subs are great for that. Taken to the extreme, it's hilarious though. There was one tournament that we were in, Dan. Yeah, you were there. Yeah. My favorite Beaver Bowl. Shout out again to the Beaver Bowl. We, Chloe, our coach at the time, man, she absolutely took advantage of that. That was the one where we walked that scrum like 20 yards, dude. That was awesome.
That was a fun scrum.
Meters. That was amazing because, yeah, Dane kept kicking it forward and bouncing the ball off their hooker. Like, he was our hooker. And he kept bouncing the ball off their hooker, like their hooker's sort of chest. And we had it just, like, so perfectly tuned that we were just walking them back. Oh, that was so cool. That was so cool. But anyways, those games all had, like, that really nice rolling subs. So, you play, like, super hard and awesome, then you're off, then you're on, then you're off, then you're on. It was great. It was top notch. Anyways, I miss fucking tournaments, man. I just, on Facebook, there was a thing of like, are you missing tournaments? I'm like, yes, I'm missing tournaments.
I mean, this would be like Beaver Bowl week, or not Beaver Bowl. This would be Bingham week.
This is Bingham
if
week.
It weren't for the fact that, COVID-19 happened.
Yeah, no, it totally, oh my God, this would have been, oh my God. Yeah, so that would have been great because both Dan and I live in Ottawa, and Ottawa is hosting, which means there's no flights to take. I sleep in my bed or whatever, someone else's, but I have the option of mine. And like, oh my God, it would have been, okay, so here's the thing. It's not gone. It's just been postponed. But nevertheless, I'm kind of bummed that it's not happening.
I mean, I'm going to be 39 for Bingham now, and that's getting up there.
Dude, I know. I'm on like this fitness push just for like, I gotta play for a while, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta get on this shit.
Gee, I'm planning on getting a garage gym because I'm like, I don't know when my gym's going to be open. I don't know when it's going to feel comfortable going back to it.
Yeah,
because my gym is at Algonquin College, and so when are they going to reopen that? Like, they're trying to do virtual as much as they possible. So,
jeez, that's true, man. And yeah, like, no, home gym, that's just not cheap. I was even.
No, I'm probably going to be spending around like $2,000 on it.
Yeah, dude. I was just looking at dumbbells on like whatever the Facebook or Kijiji or something, and dumbbells are going for an insane price. Fuck you, capitalism. the market will bear whatever price. Yeah, whatever. Fucking, I'm not gonna pay $180 for 2 40-pound fucking dumbbells. Sorry, that's my own little rant right there. That's ludicrous. But yeah, man, no, look, the home gyms, honestly, it's a good choice because there's going to be a second wave in the fall. We know this, right? It happens. So you got a garage. I mean, dude, yeah, take advantage of that. We've kind of strayed here.
What are you talking about? This is totally about shuffling.
Yeah,
right?
This is completely 100% about shuffling and stuff. Okay, but I mean, we talked about stuff. We talked about sort of pacing yourself. You've done everything right, but you're still exhausted. You're getting close to the try line, and you gotta get that last little chunk. You gotta dig deep, Dan. How do you dig? What are your tips for digging deep? So I'm notoriously bad at not digging deep.
So my tips for digging deep involve just sort of like taking a nap on the sideline when the game is not going on. No, usually the best thing to do to dig deep is vomit. No. Seriously though, I find that just like combining a whole bunch of little things can really help you dig deep when you have nothing left. I find grunting really helps. It's just the sort of thing where I'll like and just really just make like very grunting noises that um just psych me up and really just be
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm tired and it's the other team's fault, so I'm gonna hit them. um I find that, self-talk really helps. Just acknowledging like, yeah, I'm tired. What I need to do is, do those 2 steps as the play starts. Focusing on really getting to yourself where you're not thinking about the rest of the game. Like if you're like completely done and there's 10 minutes left, just telling yourself there's 10 minutes left, there's 10 minutes left. 10 minutes is too abstract and it just can feel like a really long time when you're tired, and you don't want to be doing that. It's just not helpful. Um, by focusing on like what is going on right now and just sort of saying this is what I need to do right now, and keeping yourself in that moment with your self-talk, I find that really helps to just get started, and then things follow. And I find that's one of the best things to when you need to dig deep is just get started, and everything else will follow. Focus on those first 2 steps. Um, the other thing that I find really works along with that is visualization. If you are visualizing while you're self-talking, like, I need to make 2 steps. If the guy comes towards me, I get into position, I tackle him. Um, Visualizing the process helps keep you in that moment, keeps you focused on what you need to do, um, and really helps you do it. I talked earlier. Was that in this one or was that a previous one? That was a previous one.
They all blend together for me. I get drunk about this time. So
Yeah, it was the lucky poop that I talked about a lot about visualization. There's a lot of evidence about visualization, how effective it is, and how it really preps your body for movement. And so I find just doing that really helps, uh, and really helps you get into position, focusing on just what you need to do and not thinking about how tired you are. And the last thing I want to say is when you need to dig deep, it's really easy to just be sloppy, and that's when you're going to get hurt. And I
right.
mentioned before, like in terms of the people who charge in head first or don't have any sense of self-preservation, and some people are just like that. And other people tend to do that more when they're tired, or they're just like, I'll just like throw myself into a ruck, and that's really destructive. If you can't, like go into a ruck with proper technique, just like don't go into the ruck, go into the next one. Um, try try to focus on, not necessarily trying to even win the ruck, but just trying to be there. If it's like, for example, your ruck, just being there in position. And if they push you back, they push you back.
Right.
You're not going to get hurt, because getting hurt will just, like your team is tired now. If they're down to 14 people, then it's going to be worse.
Exactly.
Because then know, you can just be a body in position, and that will be enough. Because usually, if you're tired enough that you have nothing left, they're tired enough that they have nothing left too. There are exceptions. Sometimes you've got like 15 players and they've got 25, and sometimes they're just in better shape than you are, and you're like, well, I feel fat now.
Sometimes they just change their entire team.
Yeah.
Boston. Guys, just subbing an entire team. But yes, no, you're absolutely right. Like odds are they're the same way, but you gotta, yeah, but you gotta keep form over everything.
It's a lot of just, if you go through the proper form motions, you'll usually be able to scare someone off. If you're in a ruck and you're low, even if you're like barely able to hold the position, the other person there, and you might think to yourself, well, if I'm a little bit more sloppy, I'll be able to push harder. And you might be right. You also might, take a knee to the head and be out for a month. But if you look sloppy, they're going to think, oh, I can win this. If you look solid, even if you're not, they're usually not going to go in. And that's the sort of format is both to protect yourself and to give the impression that you're not as tired as you are. That's sort of like the mind game of tiredness. Like, look at me, I'm not tired. I have good form.
That's right. I could do this all day, but you're dying inside. Okay, so that's good. I like that. So you've dug deep. You've got your energy. Sometimes you get a second win. I typically get a second win around, if I'm playing an 80-minute game, I'll get a second win around like 50 to 60 minutes in.
So I can like usually like track my sort of like rugby, and I'm usually on like my third win by that point.
Oh, you're an animal, Dan. You're an animal.
Well,
But you know what?
you have like sort of peaks, and then you're like, okay, and it goes away. You're like, oh my god, I'm so dead. I'm so dead. I'm like, oh, I got a second win. Now it's gone again.
Dan and I have often played both at the same time, and I love scrums with Dan. But I got to say, if Dan is on the sidelines, and you know that Dan is on the sidelines, and you know that he can substitute for you, that is a wonderful feeling. See, you're just like, and I mean, this is why. He's got like 7 peaks in this. Every 10 minutes, he hits a wall, and he comes right back up. And it's just like, yeah. It's a good feeling, Dan. I'm just saying. So when you do come back on, and you do the Dan charge, which is my favorite thing to watch ever, or just charging in general. Like you've got, you've set yourself up, they've passed you, little scrummies pass you the ball, you're charging through, and you got some defenders on you. How do you break that tackle? How do you maneuver through that?
There's I find that so once again it's a lot combining a lot of little techniques works a lot better than trying to focus on one thing, especially if you're a prop. If you're a prop, you've got your weight and power that most of the other players on the pitch don't have. And trying to do like a big sidestep if you're a prop usually fails miserably. If you're because the one thing you got is that speed and that's power. You get rid of that and you're done. Like anyone can take you down. It's like a little guy just sort of like, oh, he's not moving. I just wrap around his legs. You're not, and if you're a prop, you're not going to outrun other people. You're not going to out agile other people. Your best tactics are to really just catch them off guard enough that you can use your power to your advantage. Right. And this is why, like, yes, if you try to sidestep, you're usually going to fail. If you try to charge straight in, then someone who's a lot smaller than you can just use technique to take you down. Sure. I am, like 370 pounds, like can squat 565 pounds. But like, a small little guy, if he knows exactly how I'm running at him, can just hit me in a place where he's going to take me down. And so you don't want to just charge in either. I find that really the big things you want to have is you want to make sure you're moving in contact so they can't get a grip on you. If right. They are hitting you, I mean, you've got the power to really just sort of charge through that. You want to make sure you're sort of rolling so they can't get a good grip. So if they end up gripping on you, they're sort of like hanging on as following you behind because you have the power to go through that. Staying static in contact it sometimes feels good as a prop because you're like, I'm pushing against them. And if you've got like a one little guy and he's alone, sometimes that can work. And it does feel really good, honestly, when you're like knocking someone flat on their ass, especially when it's a big guy. I still remember my first time charging at Caleb with the ball. He sort of stood at me like this and like, oh, I'm just going to knock him over, throw my shoulder right into his chest, and send him flying.
I literally did a flip.
You did.
And I landed on my back as I was laughing because I had never experienced that level of movement and manipulation before.
But that was because Caleb had not ever tried to tackle me before. If I tried to do that now, he would fuck me up. Not why I like talking about it then, because like, yeah, totally own him. Yeah.
Oh, you're sweet. But yeah, like, or they'll just like I'm a big fan of charging in. Always run straight. But I have a lot of photos where I look really epic, but there's like 3 guys in front of me. And the funniest one is I've got 2 guys from the Blues perfectly just wrapping my waist. And we've got our scrummy literally on the other side of the guys. Like I'm still moving and he's asking for the ball. He's right beside me. I did not see him. I had prop tunnel vision where I'm just like charging through these 2 dudes. I could have easily moved my hand 4 inches with the ball and just given it to him, and I'd have sucked up some defenders, and like, yeah, that's what happens. You just end up slowing down, and then you're down.
And the big thing to remember as a prop is that you don't need to sidestep the way the backs do in order to be effective. What
Mhm.
you need to do is make sure they can't hit you with their shoulder. They hit you with their shoulder in
Yeah.
one of your weak points, you can topple over. You just get a little bit out of the way where they are hitting you with their bicep, and you can just smash through that like nothing.
Oh yeah.
Um, just being that slight bit unpredictable. I find that one technique, which is an older rugby technique, that's called the swerve, is really effective for this. The swerve is not as dramatic a movement as the sidestep, which is why the sidestep you see all the backs doing, because what they want to do is they want to make that big sidestep, get around the player, and score. And backs can do that. They can accelerate a lot faster than a prop, and they're much more agile. If you are a big non-agile guy, what you want to do, let me describe the swerve quickly. The swerve is more of a hip movement where what you do is you take your forward leg and you bring it across your body a little bit to start going in one direction. And then using the power from your hips as you pump your other leg forward, you completely go on like a 90-degree turn. So you're going like straight forward. You go 45 degrees to the left for one step, and then use your next step, which would be if I'm your behind leg, to then swerve 90 degrees in the other direction to really give that quick little head fake and
Huh.
start running on angle. And you can, because you're just actually using your hips to power through a little bit further than you would normally, you're not actually losing any momentum, you're not losing any power, you're able to give that significant bit of misdirection
Interesting.
to really catch them off guard and then power through. And because when they can't hit you with their shoulder, or they're not going to be able to hit you head on because you've just deked them very slightly, it can be really effective. A lot of my tries where I sort of like run through a big group of people, and then you've talked before how you see like a whole bunch of people hanging off me. The reason I can do that is because they can't hit me dead on. They're gearing themselves up for it, and I'm not super agile. I'm really not agile at all. The great thing of the swerve is it doesn't require a lot of agility. It just requires that power from your hips, which is what props have. Um, Another big thing about a prop is really just like I think a lot of props rely on hitting too much and they don't fend enough. And I mean, I'm guilty of this as well because I like hitting. That's why I'm a prop. Uh, and it feels very satisfying to just like crash into someone, smash through them. And the times when I fend someone off do not feel anywhere near as satisfying.
Right.
But it's important, and the really thing I think you want to pay attention to with the prop, as a prop, is don't leave your arm out. Just to fend, use that quick little push, and then use your power, and that feels satisfying, but also is really effective because you can just use that fend to make sure they're a little bit off balance, so you can whack them really hard.
Well,
um,
my first try was because I fended instead of running into contact with this one poor fullback. It was just like he was trying, but I mean, I had a full head of steam going, and yeah, that was like the first time I'd ever really fended. It was after a few years of playing too, because I don't know, like they don't really teach too much fending. I found like there's not like whole days where you're like we're fending today, at
no, I
practice.
mean, and it's hard to teach. Like to offend,
Yeah,
just like you push out your arm. Um,
yeah, it's like Krav Maga. Like you're just like, yeah, no, man. There's a lot to
um,
get hurt.
yeah. I'd say the big difference is most people you see fending are backs, and they will do sort of like longer fends where they're sort of like pushing the ground and they'll run past the person. As a prop, I mean, if that's what you can do, like great, but usually you're going to be slower. They're going to be able to catch up to you and tackle you from behind. You'll get a few extra meters, which is good.
Yeah,
Um, but if you're able to use the fend very quickly, not as a sort of like not as a I'm trying to get around you, but as to get them off balance so you can hit them or to just break through them. Uh, they are going to be then stopped by you and going to have to accelerate again. You can get a lot more distance, or just even knock them flat on their ass, and then they're out of the play. Just that quick little fend, and I think it's really important as a prop you do quick little fend, because if a small back is able to grab you by your arm,
yeah,
that
yeah,
is bad.
yeah. Hang on,
Um,
man. Like, Like,
You know, like as soon as they have you by arm, you're sort of like your upper body is off balance.
yeah,
Your weight is no longer under your feet. It's not good. You don't want to have that happen. So just that little fend to get them off balance, to be able to break through them, really can. Or even if you're not breaking through them, if you just get that extra like couple yards before they can get you from behind, that's all really good. And I'd say the last thing that is really helpful to break tackles is to always uh, keep moving and keep your weight in front of your feet. In the sort of, if you think of the top speed sprint position, you're usually like pretty much upright. Um, you start off with your body very angled forward, but as you reach top speed, you end up straightening up. You watch most sprinters, that's exactly what they do. They start off like at like a 60-degree angle.
they're just
And
falling. Like,
they're just falling as they accelerate, and then they get upright where they're just using that speed and coasting. Um, and if you're breaking tackles, you don't want to ever run upright. You
yeah,
want to make sure your weight is in front of your feet, both because this is where you're actually going to be able to hit them with your shoulder, and it's not going to slow you down as much, because usually if they hit you back, you might end up going upright, and then you can go back down and keep pushing. It also, so you've got that power behind it where you actually have your legs behind your body so you can drive forward with your shoulder. And also, if you then are up against someone who's able to push you up, you're not pushed back. Because if someone hits you like that when you're upright, you just fall flat on your ass. And that's,
you're done.
as a prop, it's always embarrassing when someone knocks you flat on your ass, because that's supposed to be your job.
It's true. It's forgivable if they like wrap your legs and you fall forward. Falling backwards, man.
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, if like 3 guys do it, totally acceptable.
Cool.
As a prop, like you should not be knocked flat on your ass by one person.
Oh my god! I remember, was it the Brighton and Hove Serpents? Took 6 guys and they lifted me up while I was charging through. And literally, like, there was like guys on my legs, guys on my arms. It was ridiculous. That was still kind of cool though. I was pissed though, man. I was like, "You lifting me?" Anyways, I'm not meant to be lifted. So let's talk about, this is a weird one, penalties, because that is one where it took me forever to learn certain techniques and just like what is happening, what a penalty is called. So sometimes I'm scrumming, sometimes I'm doing whatever, man. I don't know. Sometimes the guy's looking at me, giving me hand signals behind the ball or whatever, and I'm like, what the fuck are you looking? Stand here and run? Okay, I'll do that. I was not there for that practice.
I mean, yeah, a lot of that stuff is team stuff. If you're on a team that you don't really know because you sort of like got roped in, usually a good rule of thumb is to be behind the other prop. It's like,
There.
it's like, well, if they need contact and hitting, I'll be, with the other big guy, we can drive through. My team tends to like having sort of like 2 pods. And that's a pretty common thing, because that way you can give a little bit of misdirection to the other team. And also, if your team, once your team is tackled, the other pod is there to ruck over, get the next ball, and continue play. And so, yeah, but there's a lot of other strategies too. I know a lot of teams that like only having 1 pod and then having the other forwards in with the back line, because that way, they had the 1 pod is really there to keep the big forwards on their other team in by the penalty. And then that way they can usually put out to the backs who have support and overwhelm the other backs. And if the other team starts then putting their forwards in the backs, give it to that pod, and they end up crashing hard and breaking through. So there are a lot of strategies. I mean, these are just like 2 basic strategies I've encountered a lot. So another team, it's always good to just like follow your other prop if you don't know what's going on.
Unless it's me, and I'm clearly following you. And then you just run towards the action.
That's when you play 10-bit rugby.
Yep, exactly. Crash, 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 out. Oh my gosh. But so what happens when you made the try, Dan? We've gone through all this. You got an amazing, you broke through. There was some penalty, something or other happening. You made the try, buddy. A prop try, a mythical thing.
I mean, hey, I have scored the most tries on my rugby team of all players. I like marked down how many tries I've done. I am the highest scoring member of the Ottawa
Yeah,
Wolves.
buddy.
Uh, and even in terms of like most of the seasons I've played, I've either been the highest scoring or tied for the highest scoring player. Now that I'm getting older and I'm a little bit fatter than I should be for optimal rugby, sort of gone down a bit. Uh,
That's what I'm going to start saying. I'm a little bit fatter than I should be for optimum rugby. Because that makes it sound so much better than what I really have. Oh my God, that's a t-shirt, dude. Oh my God, that's our next background. That's our next t-shirt.
a little
Oh,
bit fatter than I should be for optimal rugby.
yes. It's right up there with 20-Minute Hero. You are gold mine for these things, Dan. Okay, I gotta write this down. Keep talking though. Keep talking. Go, go, go. I'm gonna write down.
Then, if you're me, I actually started off, as I mentioned in previous podcasts, kicking a lot. So after, telling me that I'm not going to be kicking for a day because I asked, and they're like, no, Daniel, you're not going to kick. My coach will then be like, all right, Daniel, you're kicking. And I'm like, I didn't practice. Because, I was a little bit of skill come back. But yeah, and you kick, you waddle back to the other side. Usually, if you are kicking, you want to kick the ball really far, so it takes them a while to get the ball back, and
Nice.
that way you have more time to waddle back.
Right. You gotta use that big leg. Use all that momentum.
um, there is one other thing I also want to talk about in terms of penalties. As a prop, it can be really effective to just pick up the ball and tap and go. Um, and I have scored several tries by doing this, much to the consternation of sometimes my scrum half, who's like picking and going on a lot of on a lot of penalties when it's not really, in my opinion, it wasn't really effective, which is why I didn't do it. Then suddenly, like, there's a penalty, and I'm like, this is the perfect time. And I kick and go and score a try. And he's like, I did so many, and then you score a try. And I'm like, I waited for the right moment, bitch. You should make sure you have a conversation with your scrum half beforehand, being like, look, this is something that might happen. If I like see there's a penalty and I see that there's opportunity for me to like get through them when they're disorganized and just smash through, I'm going to take it.
This poor guy, poor scrum halves, because they got that. They got the 8-man after scrums doing pick and goes all the fucking time. These poor little dudes. They just want the ball, Dan. They just want it to run to plan. Their plan. I will never ever do that, but I will always just run. It's great. So okay, so what are the instances in which for our newer props, the younger props, younger, older, whatever, actually, because you're a prop. You could be a new prop and be older. That happens too. Pick and go situations. How does that happen?
So
How can we get these guys doing this to piss off their scrummies? Basically, is what I'm saying.
When the ref puts up his arm towards your team, be like, "Yep, penalty," and so your team has a penalty, and you see the other team is not in a position near where the ref calls it. You can just pick up the ball and you have to kick it through the mark, but kicking it through the mark is not particularly hard because like really the ball only has to travel like 2 centimeters on the kick. So you really just like sort of if you're me and you're not very flexible, you'll usually just like tap it along the ground and then pick it up because I find that's a lot easier than the whole like what other people do, which they have their hands like out like this and they just let the ball drop a tiny little bit and kick it back into their hands. And like I see that and it's a really effective move for scrum halves. I am not that flexible. Like my legs do not work like that. I can sort of like drop it a little bit and then tap it off my foot and then catch it. But that's dangerous.
That's risky.
Like if I'm doing like a tap and go when I have time to set up, I know I'll be able to do it. If it's sort of like if it's a penalty, you want to go as fast as possible because they have to be back 10 meters. If they are not back 10 meters,
right.
They tackle you, then the actual penalty you get another penalty 10 meters up. Well, 10. You can't go quick on that. Like you just gain 10 meters. Easy. Like, and you still have the penalty. You can still kick. You can still do anything you want. So when they're disorganized, when they're positioned, when especially is sort of like there's not that many people near the ball, uh, that's the best time to go for it. We have to be careful of is doing this. Um, you're often not going to have much support. So you also really want to do it near the try line,
Right.
because if you're in your own end and you do this and they do make it back 10 meters and then tackle you and you're alone, then the ball's turned over and yeah, then you're kind of
Yeah.
screwed.
Then everyone's yelling at
Yeah.
you.
So unless it's a part of a distinct strategy and you know that you have support, don't do it in your own end. This is really like an other end. Sometimes if I am doing it like near the middle of the field, I will purposefully run into another player on the other team. And like not like actually like charge into him, because if they're actually getting out of the way and I charge into him, that's a really dick move and actually could be carded. But like I
Yeah,
will be running like so I'm running right next to him, so he's like, oh, I should tackle him,
right.
because the instant comes in, he tackles me, and then I'm like, oh, I go down, and it's like, oh, 10
Oh, you
meter
got
penalty.
me. Oh, you
Uh,
clever, you crafty man.
I have done that many times, and I've never failed to pull a tackle when I wanted to, and that's really effective because then you just get 10 meters. Um, because usually if you're doing it, they know that they don't have anyone behind them,
Right.
and so if they don't tackle me, like I'm just going to keep running.
Yeah, they're gonna let you walk
um
through, and like instinctually, you can't. You just can't.
yeah. And then if you're like not running near them, then they're like, well, I'll just keep running back to 10 meters and then I'll go after him. But if you just like literally like charge like right beside them, then they're like, well, I have to.
Dude, I love it. I love it. You can't not. Oh, that's brilliant. Brilliant. So yeah, if ever you see a prop with a twitchy foot and the ball just happens to be on the ground after a penalty, don't well, yeah, what do you do? It's just, I love it. It's you can't not do it, man. That's fantastic. Diabolical, Daniel.
You still don't want to do that in your end, because even though I can pull the tackle when I want to, and I've never failed at it, like if you're in your own end, then they might be like, well, if like we can catch him and he's alone. You see, it's still not a move you'd want to do alone, and still not a move you want to do in your own end. But pulling tackles can sometimes be a very effective strategy.
I'm not. I'm learning quite a bit here. This is fantastic, Dan. Not like I can actually do anything with this info right now, but I will try and remember that. That's why we are committing this wonderful knowledge to podcast form. It's not like we're writing it down. But yeah, it's good. It's good.
It's still for posterity. People like 300 years from now will be like, I'm playing prop. What do I need to do that? Hey, here's Propspectives.
That's right.
We are, like I will be okay. Because obviously rugby won't have changed at all in 300 years.
No, please.
Oh, that just makes me think of that wonderful weird thing. I shouldn't bring that up right now. For those who like really weird, interesting sports things and need something to do during the pandemic, there's a wonderful thing on the future of football called 17776. I highly recommend it. And you'll learn a lot about like how sport could change.
I would actually check that out, because football is like this Byzantine, crazy, complicated fucking thing. Like, it's insane.
I think you would really like 17776.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. I'll send you the link after this is done, because you will actually really like this, I think. But anyway, that actually has nothing to do with rugby. So let's move on to after a try, you should also make sure you drink water. Hydration is really important. If you get dehydrated, you perform a lot worse. Some people swear by sports drinks. The evidence on them is like that they are slightly helpful if you do continuous exercise longer than an hour, and they can increase your performance after that hour by like 5%. But it's a bit of a thing like the like carb load dinner the night before, where it's not super effective, and it has this sort of mythical status. the carbs in something like Gatorade can be slightly effective. You don't need that much of it. If you're really like, studies show that any more than 30 grams of sugar per hour, your body just can't process fast enough for actually helping you during a sport. So like,
Okay.
if you're one bottle of like original Gatorade, 600 milliliters, has 45 grams, which is exactly 30 gram or exactly 15 grams per half hour. So that's actually about the right amount. You don't really need to chug sports drinks, and if you're actually subbing on and off, and you're not playing the full 80 minutes, the study showed they're not really effective at all. Uh,
I actually drink very little water during a rugby game. Like I know the
I
water.
know that. I don't understand it. I'm like, how do you not stay hydrated?
I'm just not thirsty. I'm like a fucking camel, dude. I don't know. I'm just not thirsty. And so I'll swish it around my mouth. That's super effective. Pour it on my face. That cools me down as you take a drink. I'm trying to drink more water, Dan. You drink so much more water than I do, dude. I
I
just
mean, I need to drink more water. If I don't drink like 6 liters of water a day, I get horribly dehydrated.
what? I've literally yesterday, and this is terrible. I literally don't think I drank anything yesterday, which is horrible, guys. Don't do this. But it was just like it was a big day. I was working hard, whatever. And then I realized like late at night, and I felt like shit. But like 11 at night, I'm like, oh fuck, I didn't drink a goddamn thing. So I get some wine now. But today I've had 3 liters of water, and I feel completely waterlogged. I can't.
See,
Six, Dan,
I
6.
I've had 4.5 liters today because I filled up my big 1.5 liter water bottle 3 times, and I'm just like, I just drank the last one. Like, I need more water. As soon as this is over, I'm going to fill this up again.
Holy
Uh,
shit. How do you do it? I don't know. I don't. Maybe I'm the freak. Maybe I'm the one who's just like my body is clearly retaining all of it somewhere somehow.
I've always been super sweaty.
I have too, though, and I sweat so much.
I mean, apparently not.
I guess I don't know. Does it just like sublimate off my skin? Which
Like when
sublimate?
I wake up in the morning, I can like wring out my sheets and there's a liter of water there.
Okay, so maybe I'm not like that, but I also have the AC cranked to like fucking like 16 degrees. So anything higher than that, anything higher than that, I'm well insulated. But I don't know. What's the deal? Maybe I should sweat more, Dan. Maybe I would drink more if I sweat more.
I don't think you can just tell your body to sweat more. I don't know. I don't think that's how bodies work.
Like sure as shit can't tell it to stop. Oh,
But no, I mean,
no, I don't know.
I ain't kind of jealous of that. I have central air conditioning, and my room is always the hottest room in the house.
Just a BTU furnace.
Like I can like leave my room, and it's like, oh, it's so cold here. That's nice. I go into the room, and it's like, ugh, humid, heat.
I put out a lot of heat too, though. I've also been described as a furnace. But man, that's wild. 6 liters. 6 liters. I'm still floored by how hydrated you are.
I mean, I am relatively hydrated, but like this is not me feeling waterlogged. This is like, I'm not like they always say pee clear. Like 6 liters is not me peeing clear.
Dude, no, like me, okay, I will drink 1.5 liters of water, and it is like crystal clear. I'm peeing like so much. Like, this is hydration. It's terrible. I'm just always getting up to pee. I don't know. Maybe something's wrong. Yeah, I am a camel, Dan. How it goes. I even like, you know what? I even like running in like hot, humid nighttime, not daytime, but at night when it's hot. Like tonight, it's like 35, 36 degrees. Yeah, with Humidex, it's a little more. I love running, quote unquote, running in that weather because yeah, I do get sweaty, but I'm never thirsty after, dude. Never thirsty. I don't get
understand.
it. I don't either. It's clearly coming out. But I don't know, man. But hydrate, everybody. I'm not a good example. Dan's a great example. Be hydrated.
I mean, pay attention to your own body's needs for hydration. It is true that some people like. I know people who don't feel that thirsty, but then if they don't drink, they cramp up horribly.
Right.
So sometimes our own bodies aren't the perfect guide. But really, pay attention to your own needs for hydration. Really listen to your own body is generally the best thing to do. And then, start from there, and follow what you have to do. If you're following your own body's signals and you're still cramping up because you're dehydrated, then you need to drink more.
I'm gonna try, Dan. I'm gonna try and drink more, buddy.
All right. Good luck. You'll
So
need it.
hard. It's so hydrated. It's fucking crazy. Well, that's good. You know what, dude? It's been an hour. We got it, man. We got it. That was like a that was 2 super solid episodes. I love them. There's so much goodness in these episodes.
Always. And it's because you're on them.
Yeah, but I mean, these ones are particularly we're hitting our stride, buddy. What are we talking about next week? What are we talking about?
Next week, we're talking about the third half. The episode title is called Yogi Bear.
You do an amazing Yogi Bear, Dan. I don't even know the lyrics to Yogi Bear. I couldn't even do it. I've just seen people do it. And they've never pointed an elbow at me. You can't see what I'm elbowing over towards Dan right now. There's something else. They're crazy.
I know a bear that is like, there's not. I know a bear that you all know, Yogi. I know a bear that you all know, Yogi Bear. Yogi Bear. Yogi Bear. I know a bear that you all know, Yogi Bear.
And then you do something.
Yogi's dick is big and green, cucumber. Yogi's dick is big and green, cucumber.
Oh my God!
Bear, cucumber. Yogi's dick is big and green,
cucumber. Oh, you see, Dan, I fucking missed that. This is gonna be a great episode. This is great. I love it. How do you not even sing with that? Oh, put me in a good mood, buddy.
I'm glad. I'm glad my singing is good for something.
Oh, I am gonna do some fucking research, and we are gonna sing, Dan, sing.
Okay, so if you have taste, you might want to skip the next episode. If you don't have taste, we will see you there.
Alrighty. Well, good night, everybody. Say goodbye, Dan.
Goodbye, Dan.
Bye, Dan.